Hey there, friends. Dave Paulides, Canada Missing Project, a copyrighted edition for our video channel. And back in the library, still windy outside. Not that cold, but wind would destroy things. So this is a missing person segment. And I want to start this segment off lightly, because every once in a while I see something that just rattles my cage. There's a video going around where a young man is harassing heavyweight champion of the world, Mike, on a plane. I remember Mike bit the ear off somebody. He's probably the toughest man alive, pound for pound, for his age. And this kid on this plane is harassing Mike. And Mike had enough, and he ended up pounding this kid into oblivion. So you can watch the video, it's online. And the funny thing to me about it is, you talk about people with common sense. Well, out of all the people in the world, you probably don't want to harass. It's Mike. And this young man got the scars from being pummeled by Mike. And I saw it and I thought, now did this guy wake up in the morning and think, hey, I'm going to go harass somebody who bit the ear off somebody else? I don't know. But I watched it and I thought it was funny. Now, a friend of mine who I met this last week, I happened to be in Los Angeles earlier in the week. And had dinner with some friends. It was a good dinner. And this one friend knows that I have a very soft side for animals. Very soft side for animals. And she told me to watch this movie. It's a documentary. And you can watch it on YouTube. And it's called Pet Fooled. P-E-T space F-O-O-L-E-D. Pet Fooled. Quite an eye-opener, folks. Quite an eye-opener. It's about the food that we feed our pets, predominantly cats and dogs. And I can remember back when I was really young, I had a dog, and within a very short period of time, the chocolate lab developed diabetes. I said, what? The vet says, yeah, it's a year and a half old and it has diabetes. It's got to go on a special diet and got to give it shots every day. Of course I did, but how does a dog that young get diabetes? Well, again, I just went down to the stores, asked the vet what dog food, and they said they named the biggest dog food in the world, and I bought it for puppies, and I gave the dog diabetes. Well, one thing I learned is that a lot of dog food contains corn. It's one of the worst things you can give your dog. And when you watch this documentary, you're going to become someone who reads the descriptions of foods on labels. Now, when I first had an inkling that something was wrong with dog food, it was way back when. I haven't seen this movie, but I knew something was wrong. And what I always wanted to do was take different brands of dog food to a chemist and have them do an analysis of what's really in it. Problem is, nobody will allow you to do that. There's no chemistry location that would do it and stand behind their results because they don't want to get sued by the dog food companies. And there's 4 big ones in the world. A lot of small ones, but some really, really big ones. When you watch Pet Fooled, you are going to become a changed person if you have animals. I guarantee it. So, please go watch it. And you'll treat your pets better because of it. Now, I wanted to tell you about something that's going on right now, and it's a search for a little boy. I have no idea if it's a 411 search, but it has my heart. And it's happening at the Red Earth First Nation Reservation in Saskatchewan, Canada. So, here's the Red Earth Nation right here. And this is the U.S. border. This is Moose Jaw, Prince Albert, Hudson Bay. This is the area. Lots of water. Tons of water. Now, the boy, Frank Young, 5 years old. Frank was playing in front of a neighbor's house, and he vanished. This was on Tuesday. Let me read you what it says. 70 hours after Frank Young was last seen, Red Earth Cree Nation officials have provided an update. This is today. Today, meaning recorded today. He was playing in the front yard of a home in the community, which is located 350 kilometers northeast of Saskatoon. Red Earth Chief Fabian Head said search teams were out again Friday morning as the search is stretched into its multiple day scenario. Dog teams, dive teams have been searching for the boy. We've been meeting with the family on a daily basis, Head said during a virtual press conference. We appreciate all prayers. There have been 9 search crews aiding in the search. We appreciate all the help. Carrot River RCMP Sergeant Richard Tong said a police plane spent 6 hours in the air Thursday looking for the boy. Plane's equipped with a high-resolution camera. The boy's wearing a blue coat, and that's what they're keying on. They found something blue, and it was a Pepsi can. That's an indication of the high level of scrutiny that we're putting into this. Search initially focused on the area around the home where Frank was last seen, 3:30 on Tuesday. Kind of ironic. 3:30, 4 o'clock's the magic hour according to 411. I'm not saying this is. I'm just saying it's very odd a 5-year-old boy isn't found in 4 days. 5 days. An RCMP recovery dive team arrived in the community on Thursday has also found no sign of the boy. Boats equipped with sonar have also looked for signs of the boy in the river that runs through the community but have found none. Parents are devastated, obviously. They didn't find any reason to activate an Amber Alert because they didn't see any signs of abduction. Frank Young, put your prayers into him, would you please? You know, these disappearances of small kids, I've seen it so many times. It just destroys a family. I feel sorry. Very sorry for them. Somebody from Oregon sent me a memorandum from the Patchogue Medford School District dated April 19th, 2022. Let me read this to you. It is with profound sadness that I must notify you of the tragic passing of one of our Medford Elementary School students by suicide on Sunday. Anders Hart was an all-around delightful student who excelled academically, athletically, and musically. He was a student leader who was active in all aspects of his school activity. And while Anders appeared to be the optimal student scholar, he also struggled with depression. There are no words that can adequately comfort the inconsolable grief that the family is experiencing during this difficult time. However, we have spoken to the family and offered our unwavering support on behalf of the district. The family has expressed our sincerest gratitude to all staff members who continually supported Anders throughout his time at Medford Elementary School. In addition to the family grief, we recognize that the teachers, classmates, and Medford School family struggle. Friends, something greatly wrong in our world. Greatly wrong in our world. When elementary school kids are taking their own life. Horrific. Thanks for forwarding that. But the point of this is that this is not isolated. This is across our nation and nobody is talking about it. No. I just came out of a counseling session an hour ago. So I'm pretty primed for this. So many times, it is somebody you don't expect. Somebody who appears to have it together. Somebody who is an athlete. Somebody who gets great grades. Somebody who's social. And then they take their life. That's what happened here in Montana. The student body president addressed the students. Days later, took his life. The weird thing about that is I was at an event put on by a nonprofit last summer where he volunteered his time. I wish I could say that I had no idea how the parents feel, but I have every idea how they feel. And it's horrible. It doesn't go away. People have said, oh yeah, it'll get better. It hasn't gotten better. His parents in Medford are going through hell. Let me move on. Next letter. I just found the love of my life, best friend since 91, dead in his apartment Thursday, April 14th. His name was Randall Grimm. I've been watching your videos since the channel's inception, and I know you're so very busy, but I felt compelled to share this, as I suppose it's hard not to feel connected to you via your obvious sincerity and compassion for all. I'm just starting my painful, dark journey and wanted you to know that the tips, tea, and facts you offer us villagers every week are inspirational, encouraging, informative, perplexing, reasoned, wise, thoughtful, and uniting. Because of your channel, I know of a couple of times a week I'll have a slice of peace hearing you out. Even if the news isn't good, it's comforting to realize I'm not alone in my view of this crazy world. Beyond grateful. Rochester, New York. Thank you. Those little words are very polite and needed sometimes. I know it seems redundant, or it may seem strange, but just the truth, just the facts. Next letter. I've been meaning to write to you ever since I first started to follow your work a couple of years ago. I watched all your videos and movies, read and own all your missing 411 books in Idaho too. I even have the maps on my woman cave walls for my own brainstorming purposes. Thank you, women of the world. In a way, I feel like I know you, which is crazy since I have no idea who the heck... You have no idea who the heck I am. Ha! I'd love to meet you someday. Shake your hand and have a chat. That's all the crazy things going on in the world. Amen. There is a lot of crazy garbage going on in our world. And you can shake my hand. Because, I almost forgot to say this, next month in May 2022, I'm going to be at MUFON in Denver, Colorado. It's actually going to be a suburb of Denver called Centennial. But if you Google Colorado MUFON, right on the front page, you'll see my ugly mug. Sign up and go. It'll be a good talk. It's the only springtime appearance I'm making this year. So hopefully I'll see you there. Shake hands with everybody. I'm 35 years old. I'm originally from Finland. I came to the U.S., North Dakota in May of 2013 to complete practical training for my school. I studied agricultural at a Finnish university, and wanted to become fluent with speaking English because I was aiming for some type of international position within agricultural and European Union. I know my goals were kind of high up there. Hey, shoot for the stars. Go for it. Well, anyways, I met a guy pretty much immediately, and we ended up getting married at the end of 2014. I got my green card and eventually became a proud U.S. citizen in 2020. Thank you. Me and my husband were married for 7 years, but ended up getting divorced due to our lives and goals heading in different directions. After coming to U.S., I worked around 4 years as a ranch hand. Prior to this, back in Finland, I pretty much worked with all kinds of animals. The exotics included most of my life. I started with horses, and that led to me wanting to know everything and anything about other animals as well, pet or exotic. Unfortunately, I had to rethink my career choice due to my hands getting in too bad a shape, where both of them would fall numb from my shoulders down. That started a cycle of me trying to find myself at a career again. I tried my hands as a housekeeping supervisor for 2 years, hardware department manager for 2 years, delivered mail in rural North Dakota for a year, and now I build wire harnesses for Boeing. Something totally different for sure. I love to go camping and hiking, love to explore the national and state parks. I've had a few weird things happen to me ever since I was a kid. I'm thinking it must have been around 1993 wintertime. I remember snow on the ground. It was dark already, and I was outside playing and saw a bright fireball drop between trees in the sky. I got scared, went inside, and didn't speak of it for years. In U.S., around the fall of 2019, I saw a green light drop from the sky to a field I was driving by early morning while headed to work. It seemed to be dropping straight to a direction where they had a fenced area around a radio tower, I think in a building. The weirdest thing, however, happened in August 2014 in Medicine Rock State Park in Montana near Ikalaka. I was there with my now new husband. He was very prone to weird things happening around him. I think some people are almost like set in this different way that opens their mind more to these weird happenings. So let me stop there for a second. We've talked about this before. In my humble opinion, I've heard a lot of thoughts about this. Best I heard was a physicist one time said, Dave, we all have this combination of veins and vessels and things in our head, and they crisscross different directions, and everyone's are different. Nobody's are the same. Imagine if that is some sort of antenna, because the liquid flowing and the movement around your head. What if that is the antenna that allows you to hear and see things that other people can't? I thought, wow, that's pretty brilliant. I have no idea if it's true, but I liked it. However, as we were going there, he told me that he had been to this area as a child, and he had a really crazy encounter. He was at a Bible camp, and they were playing hide and seek. He hid in the trees and ended up seeing something. He didn't want to go in detail, but it was big. He described it as a shadowy thing that had eyes. He didn't know if he had fainted or fallen asleep during the encounter, but eventually, when he made his way back to the camp, the people had been looking for him for quite a while, since they thought he had gotten lost. He had once talked about this thing in detail with a native who had said that he knew of it, but they never speak of it or its name because it's more likely that you see it. So he went to Medicine Rocks, which by the way is a very unique landscape for that area, sandstone rock formations. It's sacred to natives, and they used it to gather there in hunting parties. Gather there with hunting parties. Very interesting history includes mentions of little people. We stayed there overnight. Just one spot was taken besides us all night. The spots are far apart. We were exploring all over during the daylight, and in the evening built a fire and were just sitting by it. Around 10 or 11 p.m., all of a sudden we heard a loud voice which sounded like a man's yell and ended up something animalistic, definitely not human, like a growl, but very loud. As it startled him, and I locked our eyes, and I just listened quietly while it lasted. Once it was over, we got up, put away the fire, and went to our van, locked the doors, and tried to sleep. Good idea, lock the doors. Only once we were inside the van, we dared to speak. We just agreed that whatever it was not human. All night as I tried to sleep, the thought in my head was that if I opened my eyes, there would be something outside. The voice really spooked me bad. Nothing more happened during the night, and when the morning came, we left the park. After this, I searched all possible animal calls online and couldn't find anything like that we heard that night. When I saw your movie, Missing 411 The Hunted, and heard the Sierra sounds, it chilled me to the core. Even though not exactly the same, and in our case it was only a sound of one thing, those sounds are the closest thing I've ever heard to it. Also been doing my own search of disappearances in Finland national parks, have found several profile points in the cases there. This letter is already so long that it's just going to send you in a different email after that. Right now, there has been an active case where a 60-year-old woman and her friend had separated in Urho Kinkosen, Friday morning, trying to ski to the top of Kalopa. However, the woman never showed up at the camping hut where they were supposed to meet. So the next morning, the friend had skied on top of the Kalopa, but never found the missing woman. On Saturday morning, the missing woman had still sent a message that she was on her way and never indicated that something was wrong. The woman had enough supplies to last a while, and she was an experienced skier. Search has been started on Sunday, but bad weather made it difficult. Tuesday night, they abandoned the search because she was thought to have perished. And on 4/14, before noon, she was found dead in the area. Nothing more has been published yet, but I'll write to you if I get more information. Thank you for everything you do, Dave. Sorry for your loss of Ben. Hope you find peace. Hope I do. Next letter. Dave, I've watched every one of your videos since day one. I'm so glad that you're putting out videos on a regular basis. I've shown my 71-year-old mom your 2 movies, and when she comes in Appleton in May, I plan on showing her some of the YouTube videos that I've saved for her. I completely respect everything you're doing. I enjoy the facts news, which I often think of it as just the facts news, since you were previously in law enforcement. Great commentary on current events. I have a 29-year-old daughter struggling with alcohol and Xanax addiction, and she drifted into a few other bad drugs on occasion, and it scares me to death. I feel like talking to her is like sometimes walking on glass. I have to be very careful what I say as to not upset her because of her veering off the wrong direction. Your advice about lowering your voice when someone raises theirs has actually worked. Thank you. Thank you for a little bit of advice, because last Sunday morning she sadly drove home from a bar drunk at 3 a.m. and ended up in a ditch, airbags deployed. She managed to get out of the ditch and drive home safely and called me in hysterics. I used that quiet voice method you mentioned in one of the videos to finally get her to calm down and go to sleep after an hour on the phone. Her car was deemed totaled, and I offered to let her use my SUV for the summer, and I'll just use my e-bike to get around, but she eventually declined my offer. She had to work from home jobs that bring in over $100K a year, or more than I've ever made in a year, times 3. Laughing out loud. I'm proud of her for her work ethic, but the alcohol and Xanax are a thorn in her side. She's told me of her thoughts of suicide, but claims she wouldn't do it until I was already dead. Sounds morbid, but it keeps her going for now, and that's still hope for her. She's single, no kids. I can only hope that before I die, I'm 50, that she'll find a good man and have children, and will give her more reason to live. Anyway, I'm grateful. Thank you. So if you're watching, or if you're a parent, and you have a son or daughter under similar conditions, I've said it 100 times, let me say it 101. Find a NAMI class, N-A-M-I. They will help you. They will help her. They will help both of you understand the condition, how to manage it. They're very, very, very good people. Couldn't say enough good things about them. They helped me at a time of need. And I am a graduate of their 12-week course. Next letter, Dave. I know national parks are dangerous, and thank you for all your work. Is it the same for national forests? If so, I'll stay out of them too. But does your research confirm that? Or is it mostly national parks? My belief is that there's an agreement contract for permission in certain areas. I'm trying to stay out of those areas. Thank you for your time and consideration. So, if you pay attention to the videos I make and the stories I've written, far more stories outside of parks than inside of parks. Parks have gotten notoriety, national forests have not. Department of Interior land, U.S. Forest land, they all harbor the same sort of disappearances, as well as some public land. I have never not gone into a national park because of this. I'll go. I don't care. Now, if I had a young family with young kids, hate to tell you, I put them on a leash. Laugh if you want, I would, just because they can disappear so fast. And I've proven that. Next letter. Hey Dave, I recently found your channel and started binge watching from the beginning. I reached the video tribute to Ben and I lost it with you. My heart broke for you. I'm sorry for that loss. Your strength is an inspiration. I volunteered for NAMI for a year now and appreciate the hope you share with others about recovery. I'll keep this brief. As I'm a paranormal investigator and have many stories, when I was 15, I was hunting with friends at our cabin in Hoosier National Forest. I was bored and saw some tracks in the snow and something called to me inviting me to follow. So I did. I walked about 30 minutes and noticed it started to snow. So I sat on a boulder and watched the light snow fall. It looked like glitter snow for maybe 15-20 minutes. I looked around and saw absolutely zero tracks, not mine or the tracks I followed. I had a terrifying feeling and felt the urge to continue on the way I was going and not go back the way I knew I'd come. I walked for almost 2 hours, impossible on that land between roads and creeks. I started to cry, knelt down to grab snow to eat, and I saw a shimmer. I immediately picked up the pace forward and saw the creek ahead. My ears popped as I hopped it. I saw the gravel road and ran as fast as I could back to the cabin and didn't move till it was time to go. I have no explanation for what happened that day. Your videos and advice remind me how quickly I was to make it back. Your safety tips for water, food, staying together, and the beacon are invaluable. Please keep up the good fight for those who haven't made it out. Very interesting part of this letter. It said he jumped the creek and his ears cracked. Popped. Could be important. Was there different levels on each side of the creek? Different levels of pressure, condensation? Who knows? I think that was odd. But we live in an odd world, folks. Odd people, odd earth. Who knows? So let's get to the disappearances. And when I think about the disappearances, I'll remind you, 16 countries in the world I've written about these in. And I'm going to tell you the first case. I don't want to mislead you, but I'll tell you I'm highly interested in this case. But it's not a 411 case. But I'm highly interested in it, and you're going to see why. This happened in a suburb of Sydney, Australia, called Merrylands, right here. Here's Sydney. This is the east coast of Australia. An absolutely gorgeous city. I was there. So Merrylands is a suburb. And we're going to talk about, the date is September 16th, 1965. Glenna James, Glena James, 7 months old. This is in West Maryland. Her mom, her dad, her sister. Her mom put her at 7 months old in the stroller, and they went down a path to a store in the city. She left the stroller supposedly just outside the store, but in eyesight of her. And the store was too tight, she said, for her to manage it comfortably. So she left it outside. After about 15-20 minutes, she comes out. The stroller is there. Glenda is gone. Well, obviously, Glenda isn't going to get up and walk away. So something had taken her. Someone had taken her. She called the police. Police respond, and they start searching. Well, obviously, you're going to search for a long time. And then they tried to find witnesses to see who might have taken Glenda from the stroller. Well, the police weren't finding any witnesses, which was troubling. So they kept going up farther and farther. And they searched outwards of over a mile in every direction. So this happened on September 16th. Glenda's dad met them at home. Big talk, big search around the house. They wanted to make sure nothing was happening there. Searched out to a mile again. Well, on October 4th, okay, remember this happened on September 16th. So just about 2 weeks and a few days later, a man by the name of Thomas Fear. Thomas was driving by a vacant lot about 3/4 of a mile from Glenda's house. And he stopped, seeing his wife. And he said, I had a dream the other night about that lot right there. My wife goes, what do you mean? I had a dream that Glenda, the missing girl, is in that lot. And he says, I've got to go look. So he got out of the car and he walked over to the lot, started to search around the backside. There was a very small building, and around the back of the building was Glenda's body. Fairly well decomposed. No signs of violence. So Thomas calls the police. They come out, recover the body. The location of this body, in reference to the store and the home, both about 3/4 of a mile from each. Well, this is a weird story. The police later questioned the mom and then charged her with maliciousness. It was a weird section. They claimed that they didn't believe she was telling the truth. Something else happened to the daughter. Autopsy couldn't determine the cause of death because of the decomposition value. The whole story was very vague, except the part about Thomas having this dream. Now, why is that important? Because followers here, I've told you about other incidents, 411 cases, where people have gone out and found bodies after having a dream. Now, my take on this, they don't fabricate it out of thin air, obviously. When you're thinking of an entire city or an entire forest, the body could be anywhere. But these people go directly to the body. So where are they getting this information? Where's the download coming from? Is it from the victim? Is it from God? I don't know. But I want to know. And why in these instances is somebody getting this information and in other instances they are not? Obviously, Glenna, a completely innocent 7-month-old child, in reality, couldn't even have committed a sin, but ends up deceased in Australia. I've said before, Australia mimics us in so many different ways on disappearances. The type, the profile points, the numbers, with one exception. This is predominantly attached to the east coast of the country and not the west. There are a few very weird west coast countries, but not anything in the number of the east coast. So why would that be? Is it the Pacific Ocean? I don't know. Is it something to do with us in Australia and New Zealand having commonalities along there? I don't know. But we got to start thinking out loud. Start figuring this stuff out. Glenna James, September 16th, 65. Thomas Spear found the body through a dream. Now, I'll talk to you about a case from 1917. Man's name was James Freeborough, 84 years old. May 30th, 1917, Howland Flat, California. Very close to what's a name of a city called Poker Flat. It's in the Sierras. Elevation's about 4,000 or 5,000 feet. Very, very rural area. And for 1917, really rural. Well, James had a cabin about 4 miles from Howland Flat. But he came into the Poker Flat, or he came into Howland Flat to pick up his mail. So, this is Little Grass Valley right here. This is Highway 49 right here. Downeyville, Goodyear's Bar. Very rural area even today. So, on May 30th, 1917, James comes in to the post office in Howland Flat, picks up his mail. Meets a couple friends there, talks to him. They ask, "How you doing, James?" He goes, "I don't feel very good." "Oh, what's wrong?" "I don't know, I just don't feel right." First clue, something's wrong. But he tells his friends he's going to walk back to his house. They know it's about 4 miles away, but that's the way it was back then. Through the woods, following a creek. Well, on June 15th, one of his friends, Jim, decides to go check on him. Hasn't heard from him in a while. Goes back to the cabin. And the best he can tell is James may not have been there all the way from May 30th. It was very, very quiet. So, you got residents from Poker Flat, Howland Flat, local sheriff. They conducted a 9-day search of this area. Now let me tell you, 9 days of searching for 1917 in the middle of the Sierras, that's a Herculean effort, and I mean that. Those people must have loved James. Now what did he do? Well, he was a quartz miner, and he owned several claims up there. Quartz mining, they were looking for gold, and he and a partner had several claims. In January 1918, his partner liquidated all the claims and sold them off. Couple of things. James felt ill. If you follow my work, you know that that is one of the commonalities right before people disappear. Causes point of separation. James felt ill, wanted to go home, says goodbye to his friends, separates, hikes along a creek to his house. Water. Now, you might think, well, the guy didn't feel good, would have keeled over and died. Well, of course. Where's the body? somebody doesn't feel good, they don't go walking way off path. They stay on path. They don't want to make the ride or the road any worse than it is. James was never found. And that's not normal, folks. In fact, let me tell you, that's really odd for that time in that area of the Sierras. In May, the snow around this elevation is just about gone. And creeks would be fairly high, but not the small creeks around Poker Flat and Howland Flat. $1 million question? Where is he? Just another one of the hundreds of people that are scattered in the hills of California that have never been found. Now, in this scenario, you may think, well, you know, there's a lot of trees, a lot of bushes that can hide a body, might be missed. Well, yeah, maybe. Now, in 1917, there was a lot more bear in that area of California than there are today. I'll guarantee that. But let's talk about another scenario. I said to you, woods can hide bodies pretty easily. But what happens when you get in an environment where there's not a lot of cover? Well, let me tell you about a man named Lloyd Imes, 47 years old, May 13th, 1958. I'm sorry, May 13th, 1955. My memory just crunched. 55. It's when he went missing 12 miles southwest of Greenriver, Utah. He was an electrician in Salt Lake City. Yet he was working a job in a city called Price. He was doing some electrical work and some carpentry work. And because of waiting for some materials, took a couple days off, told everyone that he was going to go meet a friend down 12 miles southwest of Greenriver and do some uranium prospecting. So, met his friend. This is Greenriver, Utah. This is Thompson Springs. This is Highway 70. This is Arches National Park. This is Canyonlands National Park, so you can kind of get adjusted. They found his vehicle 12 miles southwest in the middle of the desert near an old mine. Now what happened was that he was supposed to be back in 2 days to do his work. He didn't. So his friend called the sheriff. The sheriff went out. They thought they knew where his car was. They went out and they found the car 2 days later. Now in the back of the car, they found his bedroll, found a coat, found his Geiger counter, and some supplies. They knew he was in this specific area. They had no doubt about it. And they knew he wasn't going to go far because he didn't have his Geiger counter. Well, the sheriff put up multiple air resources, planes, helicopters, the National Guard, and they focused around that area of the desert. The desert doesn't have any cover. You could see for miles all the way around. It was bizarre. So the Carbon County Sheriff, Emery County Sheriff, Civil Air Patrol, and the Utah Highway Patrol all put in resources. The Civil Air Patrol put up multiple planes, and the Utah Highway Patrol put up multiple planes, and the National Guard put up helicopters. And they weren't finding anything. Now you might think, well, yeah, that's odd. Well, it's really odd when you consider that I've written about another case in Utah under very similar circumstances. Guy was just hiking in the desert, and they found the remnants of his hiking, but he was never found. Now in this instance, Lloyd was in good health, 47 years old. Where'd he go? Why hasn't he been found maybe weeks, months, years later? But he hasn't. Now, uranium mining isn't like you go dig deep into the ground, you go inside the caves and look around using your Geiger counter to look for uranium. Well, he was at an old uranium mine, left the car there just to look around. And earlier that day, he had split up from his friend, and his friend said he was going back, and Lloyd said, okay, I'm just going to be a couple hours here and then I'll come back. And then when he didn't show back up, that's when the sheriff was called. So it's a real whodunit. And what happened out here in the middle of the desert? Where can you go? You would think you would be safe. Many of you have asked me to talk about the case of Kenny Veach, V-E-A-C-H. Kenny was a guy who lived outside of Las Vegas, Nevada. And he put up YouTube videos. Some of them pretty entertaining. And he would talk about hiking, and he always carried a gun. And one time he talked about being in a cave where he felt a very weird sensation. And some things happened in there. And Kenny talked about it after he was done. But then he said that he couldn't find the cave again, and that he was trying, and he was making videos trying to find this other cave. But then the weird thing that happened, this is outside of Las Vegas, kind of near, between Vegas and Area 51. Kenny disappeared. Yeah. Now the weird thing about this is, I've tried to get reports on the Kenny Veach case. I can't. I reached out to his daughter. She didn't respond. And there's been a lot of rumors about Kenny Veach, V-E-A-C-H. And I just essentially have given up on the case. But so many of you have asked me about it, I wanted to respond. Could it be a missing 411 case? Sure, but I don't know the facts. It almost appears as though the searchers had it cordoned down to one cave because they found some things on the ground that they thought were his near this one cave. And that they put tubes down with lenses on them to look inside. And they didn't see anything down there. Something else happened to Kenny? You know, did he was he out in the middle of nowhere and run into a drug crew in the middle of a drug exchange? Doubtful. But one thing that Kenny did is carried a gun. He also should have been carrying a personal locator beacon, but he wasn't. Don't know what happened to Kenny Veach. Not saying it's a 411 story, but I am saying it's a very odd story. And you can find many stories about it online. I would tell you be very careful what you believe. Again, there's very little information in the public arena that I could say is factual right now. I always tell people that if you want me to look into a case, I need to see the law enforcement reports that were written about it so I can understand the facts that led up to the disappearance and what the theory is, or the going theory of law enforcement about what happened to the person in this subject. Very closed mouth about this. So I encourage you to look it up. Do a little research on your own. If anybody can get their hands on the law enforcement reports, I'd love to see them. If anybody has contact with his daughter, I'd love to talk to her. And I tell her, just like I've told every other relative that I've run across, is number one thing, get your hands on the law enforcement reports. The number one reason you want to do that, make sure they're accurate. Make sure they're telling a true story about your family member. Make sure they're not embellishing or changing the facts to show something they wanted to show that isn't true. So you always want to read those reports. And if it's just a missing persons case, there's no reason why law enforcement won't release them. It's the reason I have hundreds of cases here that law enforcement has released. So I would be very grateful if you would take this video, repost it on your social media, give it 2 thumbs up if you like it. You can follow me at Twitter at David Paulides at Can-Am Missing. Our website for missing people is Can-Am, like Canadian American, canammissing.com. There's a lot of ways you can follow us all the time. I most commonly post on Twitter, probably daily, something of interest. And there's a lot out there going on. And I will continue to be the centerpiece on the missing person issues. I was just surprised to see yesterday, I got an email from an attorney from New Zealand. This involves a case where a little boy disappeared, and he was found in a percolation pond quite a distance from his house. He was barefoot, and one of the things I tell everybody is, what was the condition of the feet? And surprisingly, they did look at his feet, and there were no marks on the bottom, so they couldn't understand how he got point to point. Well, this attorney wanted some information. I was glad to help him. The dad's still going through heck, trying to realize what happened to his little boy. I'm with you. And if I can be of any help to anybody like that, I'm going to do it. And I know I gave this person the resource they asked for. So that was good. Made me feel good. So in the meantime, we're heading into spring. Hiking's coming up. Now's the time you want to go out, and if you're thinking about getting a new pair of hiking boots, now is the time to get them. Do not go out and buy them the weekend before you're going to go hiking. Buy them now and start breaking them in. Start walking them around the house, walking them around the block, getting a good pair of socks. Wear them a good month and a half, 2 months before you go on a hike. Get those things broken in so they're nice and formed to your foot, and they feel right. And if they don't feel right, take them back. But now's the time to do that. Also, now's the time that sporting goods stores, REI, etc., are stocked up real well. And those people, they have a keen way to figure out what kind of foot you have and what kind of hiking you're going to do, and they can make some good recommendations. And then while you're in there, ask them about a personal locator beacon. Not something you have to pay for monthly, because you don't need that. You just need one type of activation, sends a signal up to the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration satellite, and that tells them that somebody's in distress. There are almost like text message machines that send a beacon every couple minutes telling people where you are in your hike. You don't need that. That you have to pay for monthly. It can get pretty pricey. But then again, if you have a spouse or a significant other who wants to know that kind of knowledge about you, then maybe you might need to get it. But there are those available as well. And then lastly, I always tell people when you go on hikes, carry a gun. For a multitude of reasons. I was watching a show the other night about people who have been attacked by various animals. None of these people had a gun. One show had to do with somebody who was attacked by a mountain lion in Colorado, and another had to do with a bear in British Columbia. Neither one had guns. If they had guns, the issue would have been over quickly, much more quickly. And very scary scenarios. Before people go to the woods, I wish they'd watch some of these, because it makes you think about how you would respond in these scenarios. And they're very well done. I don't recall the name of the show. I know one was I Shouldn't Be Alive, but then there's another one that just came out recently, and they're good. Make you think. And they'll help you. If you think through a scenario beforehand and you train your mind on how to react, you will react that way if it ever happens. Told you all before, up in Northern California, I'd been hiking down a dirt road on a hot day. Hiked for like 4 or 5 miles out this logging road to another trail, and went up to this peak. Coming back down, it's about 2 miles off the summit, probably about 4 or 5 miles to go. And there in my tracks, in my shoe tracks, as I was going uphill, was a mountain lion in those tracks following me up. Yeah. Of course I had a gun, but I saw that and I swallowed hard and said, whoa. They are there, folks. You will not see them. Let's hope that they're not hungry when they see you. So anyhow, folks, thanks for being here. Keep the thoughts about our little friend in Saskatchewan. Keep reading up on him. Hopefully they'll find him soon. Thank you for being here. And everything goes right. You'll see me again soon. Paulides out.